He's often wrong, but never in doubt. And I think I called him a whack job. Senator Schumer, if he told the Democratic senators to join the Taliban, I think they'd say, "Where's the line?" But if she would simply put down her juice box and her crayons and just do a little reading about how the Senate operates, in order to take action in the Senate, you have to have 60 votes. I name names to explain to people why in Washington, D.C. normal is just a setting on the clothes dryer.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg. I think the Senate would be that much better if we had 100 John Kennedys in there, like Senator John Kennedy from Louisiana. You know, you've seen him in those confirmation hearings, and you see him on television all the time, and he just talks common sense in a very, very neighborly way. That interview with John Kennedy coming up in a second, and he calls everybody out. I don't care if it's AOC or Ilhan Omar or Chuck Schumer, right down the line. He calls them all out, and he asks them very simply, "Are you stupid?" And then later it's going to be Representative Mark Harris, District 8 Republican, great state of North Carolina, also about the shutdown. And he reveals some things that are in the shutdown, or actually the offer up by the left in the Senate, about what they wanted in the CR to say yes to it. Going to make your face hurt. This is Unshaken and Unafraid with Joe Pags. Make sure you subscribe right now.
This is Unshaken and Unafraid with Joe Pags.
If he's in a committee and he's questioning people who are trying to get some appointment to get confirmed for some appointment by somebody, I make sure I tune in. You make sure you go and see all the videos. This is Senator John Kennedy. He, of course, from the great state of Louisiana, Republican. Senator, how are you? Nice to meet you.
Joe, thank you for having me. You're a rock star, man. I love your show.
Well, I appreciate that so much. You know, when I watch you show up in these committees, and I see you go through very, very methodically, but with this great, like, neighborly, I don't know, attenuation, these people don't know what to do with you. So how much preparation goes into you sitting in front of, or on that committee in front of these people who want to be a judge or want to be a prosecutor, want to be something? Is it a lot of preparation? Do you just gloss over their career? Because you seem to know everything, but you seem to be just doing it casually as you sit there.
Well, I wish I had more time to prepare. Maybe 2 hearings out of 10, I have time to prepare, Joe. But most of the time you're running from hearing to hearing. My staff has done some research on the applicant. If I'm lucky, I've had a chance to read it, but a lot of times I just do it on the fly. The secret is to actually ask questions.
Right.
So many senators just give speeches, and you can't find out what a witness is like unless you let them talk. And so that's what I try to do.
Well, I think you're 1,000% right. You literally are trying to gain information from the questions, and the way that you deliver them is in such a friendly way. Even if you're going to corner them, and you do quite often, they have no real reason to not answer the question. You're not attacking them. You're not being aggressive about it. You know, you'll say, in 1997, did you do that? Was that you? And what did that mean? And I'm like, well, they can't not answer you because you weren't going crazy. And oftentimes, and probably every time, they show up with standard answers to questions they think they're going to get. So is the challenge for you when you sit there to make sure it's not a standard question?
Well, I have my own file of questions that I put together myself. Generally just questions about the law, questions about legal issues, questions that a good lawyer will have thought about. And then my staff, I tell them before every hearing, check the witnesses' social media. You'll be amazed what people, or maybe you wouldn't, Joe, put on social media and then think that nobody is going to find it. And that's always a source that I can go to, usually, to impeach a witness. But I don't go in trying to be mean.
Right.
In most cases, it's the witness that hangs himself or herself, not me. They just They do though. They have canned answers, and I try to make sure I give them something new and different.
I don't think you've ever been mean, that's for sure. There was a guy recently that you went back and forth with, that really, really gruff, sort of this kind of guy, and you handled him perfectly. And I think by the end of it, you said, "You're kind of crazy, aren't you?" And everybody watching was going, "Is he going to call him crazy because he's acting crazy right now?" All that's off the cuff,
about.
Right?
He's a professor in a law school. He's often wrong, but never in doubt. And I think I called him a whack job.
That's exactly right.
But only after he demonstrated to everybody watching
well,
that he was a whack job.
Yeah, he proved himself to be a whack job, and you said the obvious. A brand new book out is called How to Test Negative for Stupid. This is Senator John Kennedy. Now, it's my goal by the end of this 15 minutes, Senator, that I test negative for stupid. You get a lot of stupid people in your job. You get a lot of stupid people that are out there protesting or holding up signs and burning flags and blocking ICE and everything else. Well, it's not like we've got an epidemic of stupid. I just think they're getting all the noise right now, or they're getting all the attention because of the noise that they make. I mean, please tell me that you think most of us aren't stupid.
Well, that's a fair point. You're certainly not stupid, Joe. 90% of the people in Washington act stupid on occasion. Common sense in Washington, D.C. is illegal. That's one of the reasons I wrote the book. It's not a policy book, Joe. It's a story book. I use stories to make my policy points, and I wrote it to try to explain to people what the Senate's really like from the inside. I name names to explain to people why in Washington, D.C., normal is just a setting on the clothes dryer, and to try to show people that it doesn't have to be this way if we just have a return to common sense. But all the stories are true. How to test negative for stupid. And I tell stories about President Biden. I tell real stories, my meetings with him. I tell stories about Chuck Grassley, Mitch McConnell, Chuck Schumer, Ted Cruz, John Fetterman, Susan Collins. I talk about what President Trump's like, the agony and the ecstasy, more ecstasy than agony of working with him. I talk about my private conversations with him. I don't breach any confidences.
Right.
But we've had some issues that we've worked on through the years, and I talk frankly about that. The book, look, it's a far-ranging book. I hope it makes people think. It'll probably make you laugh a little bit. It may make you want a day drink.
It's Senator John Kennedy. The book is called How to Test Negative for Stupid. So you're bipartisan in your examination of stupidity in Washington. I love that. I want to bring up something really stupid. And I want to say this. I don't think she's stupid. This is a rich kid, grew up on the outskirts of St. Louis. She went to private school for $38,000 a year. I could never have done that. I mean, I make a good living. My kids go to public school. And now she's acting as stupidly as she possibly can. I'm talking, of course, about from right here in Texas, Jasmine Crockett. She was on a podcast yesterday or the day before, and the podcast host was somebody I'd never seen before, and he said, correct me if I'm wrong, the Republicans have the Senate, the House, and the presidency. How is it that the Democrats shut down the government? Now, Jasmine Crockett, who I don't think is stupid, but is very good at acting stupidly, literally said, you ain't got it wrong. Y'all ain't got it wrong. And then she speaks in this language that she doesn't really speak. And they both go on about how you and the Republicans somehow shut down the government. Now, she knows there's a filibuster. She knows you need 60 to break the filibuster. She knows this thing passed the House. So is it just an act of being pretending like you're stupid, thinking that the audience is also just as dumb as you're acting?
Well, I don't know the Congresswoman, and certainly she has the right to her opinion. But if she would simply put down her juice box and her crayons and just do a little reading about how the Senate operates, in order to take action in the Senate, you have to have 60 votes. Republicans have 53 votes. So we're 7 votes short. Duh. And that's how Senator Schumer could shut down the government. As soon as he provides those 7 votes, we can open up the government, Congresswoman. I don't know the Congresswoman. I want to think the best of her because I don't hate anybody.
Right.
So I won't say she's stupid, but her commitment to acting stupid sometimes is very impressive.
How to Test Negative for Stupid is the name of the book. It's Senator John Kennedy, the great state of Louisiana. I guess that was my point. I think you answered it, but I'm going to ask it again because I'm kind of stupid. These people are acting that way. They can't possibly be that dumb, right? You can't like Ilhan Omar can't really think that Charlie Kirk was this racist, misogynist, anti-everything guy. She can't really think that Frankenstein's monster killed Frankenstein, can she? Or is she just so filled with hate that maybe she does believe it?
Here's what I think is going on, and it's not just the Congresswoman. it's many, not all, but many of my colleagues, usually Democratic colleagues, they think the American people are stupid.
Gotcha.
They think the American people don't get it. Now, it's true that the American people don't have time to sit there and listen to a bunch of politicians honking on like a goose all day because they're too busy earning a living.
Right.
But the American people figure it out. But many of my Democratic colleagues think they're smarter and more virtuous than the American people. They think they'll believe anything. And so they think the American people, since my Democratic colleagues are smarter and more virtuous than them, that they think the American people ought to just send all their money and all their freedom to Washington and let Washington, D.C. make decisions for them. And that's really their attitude. They think the federal government is what makes America great. They're wrong. It's ordinary people doing an extraordinary thing, but they have a very, very elitist, jaundiced, incorrect view of America.
It is Senator John Kennedy had to test negative for stupid. I think that she's kind of the face of the Democrat Party. So is Crockett. So is AOC. I get why Chuck Schumer doesn't want to pass this continuing resolution that doesn't add any spending or subtract any spending. It just continues for 6 weeks so we can get an actual budget. He doesn't want it because AOC is going to kick his ass next year. I get that. He's afraid of her. But why would everybody fall in line behind him? What kind of leverage does he have on these Democrat senators? There are a lot of Democrats in red states. There are Democrats that are center-leaning left a little bit, maybe even leaning right on some stuff. Fetterman has a backbone to do it. Why won't 4 or 5 other Democrats agree?
You know, that's a great question. And I don't know the answer. Senator Schumer, if he told the Democratic senators to join the Taliban, I think they'd say, "Where's the line?" I don't understand it. I know there are more than just a handful of Democratic senators that know this is crazy. This shutdown is just nonsensical. But they follow Chuck. They just do. And Chuck follows Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez because Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez is the leader right now, the Democratic Party, because the Hamas wing, the socialist wing of the Democratic Party, has taken over the party. Not all Democrats are socialists. Not all Democrats have sympathy for Hamas, but the wing of the party that's in control does. And Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez is head of it, and Chuck's scared to death of it. He is really worried about his politics back home. That's just the truth. I mean, and everybody in Washington knows that's what's going on.
Senator John Kennedy, great state of Louisiana. Go get this book, How to Test Negative for Stupid. Again, they're not stupid, but they're also not very smart. And I'll say so this way, because if you look at any poll, the Democrats are losing almost every issue. Doesn't matter the issue. It's either 75-25 or 80-20, and the Democrats are on the low number side. When it comes to this shutdown, it is clear it is a Schumer shutdown. It is clear that the Senate Democrats are stopping the government from being reopened. Hakeem Jeffries can say whatever he wants about health care. Chuck Schumer can lie all he wants as well. Nobody's falling for it. So if you had a brain cell like you and I do, wouldn't you say to yourself, yeah, I'm a Democrat? Wouldn't you pull Muriel Bowser, the mayor of D.C., and say, I'm a Democrat, but I'm glad there's lower crime in D.C. I want to keep my job as the mayor. That's a smart move. If Chuck Schumer were to say, listen, because I don't like what the Republicans are doing, but because I love my constituency, I love New York, I love the country, let's reopen it. Look, now I'm a winner. Or J.B. Pritzker. Yes, have the National Guard come in and stop all the murder in Chicago, and then I'll take credit for it. I called in Trump. I'm the governor that got that done. Am I wrong about that, Senator? Wouldn't it be a big win for them if they just swallowed their pride for a second and said, let's do the right thing?
Here's your problem, Joe. You're being rational.
That could be the issue.
Look, if Senator Schumer stood up tomorrow and said, this has gone on long enough, we need to open government back up and try to solve the problems that we're arguing over, at least half, and probably 60, maybe 70% of the Democratic Party would say, okay, that's great. Let's try to solve some problems.
Right.
But you've got the socialist wing, the same wing that's about to elect a socialist as mayor of New York. You can call them the socialist wing, the Bolshevik wing, the loon wing, whatever you want to call them. They are in control or they have convinced many Democratic politicians they're in control, and they are calling the shots. And specifically, it's Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez. She is the quarterback for all of this. And, that's if some of my Democratic colleagues would just go to Amazon and buy a spine online and stand up to the loon wing of the party, they would find out that most Democrats are not members of the loon wing.
Yeah.
Now, maybe I'm naive, but I don't think they are. But they won't do that. They're scared to death of it.
Yeah, but see, and what you said is absolutely true, obviously. But when you look at what's going on, let's say J.B. Pritzker specifically, the governor of Illinois, again, why not come out and say, well, I hate Trump. I cannot stand that dude. He's orange. I don't like his tie. I don't like how he flies around. Look at his stupid hair. But I would love to solve the crime problem in Chicago. Isn't that a political win? Does he have no fear of losing an election? Wouldn't that be a political win? This guy thinks he's going to be the president.
Here's what good question. Here's what I don't understand. I don't understand why more Democratic mayors and governors haven't done what the mayor of Washington has done.
Muriel Bowser, yeah.
Mayor Bowser. Every major city, most of which are run by Democrats, has a crime problem. That's just a fact. Now, how do you reduce your crime problem? Put more law enforcement on the street.
Yeah.
So if somebody comes to a governor or a mayor and says, I will pay for and give you additional law enforcement officials to work with the ones you have and put them on the street and reduce crime, any rational mayor or governor would say, let's do it immediately. Yeah. I'll take a dozen. But because it's President Trump and because the mayors and the governors they just hate President Trump, they're doing the exact opposite. If President Trump came out in favor of breathing to stay alive, Governor Pritzker would hold his breath. I promise you. That's the way they think.
Well, you're not wrong. I'm laughing because it's so extremely stupid that you're probably right. How to Test Negative for Stupid is the name of the book. It's Senator John Kennedy. Muriel Bowser, did you see the way that she did it? She literally came out and said, I agree with what Donald Trump is doing, because keep in mind, he cared about lowering crime before he became president. Like she's saying, I don't agree with the president, but I agree with the guy who's the president now, with how he felt before he was president, so don't get mad at me for liking the president. I mean, she was very, very careful about how she did it, but that's the only right answer, isn't it? Hey, lower crime. I'm going to take credit for that, too. I'm the mayor. I said yes to it. And so I guess, going back to the question I asked a little while ago, Senator, are they not in fear of losing the election? Do they think that they're in no matter what Brandon Johnson in Chicago has said literally not one Chicago Metro police officer will help ICE. And then we have proof when they called 911 for help, they said, we're not sending anybody. Does that guy think he's got a political future?
Well, Mayor Johnson, he's entitled to his opinion, but I've watched him. I've watched what he's done in Chicago. And my opinion of the mayor is that when his IQ gets to 75, he ought to sell. He's just been a huge disappointment. And I don't think he has the ability to be the mayor. I don't. Chicago is one of the greatest cities in the world. It breaks my heart. But he's just running it into the ground. And it starts with crime. But another huge problem is education. Yeah. You got kids graduating from high school in Chicago who can't read their diplomas. It's embarrassing. And it can be addressed. The crime is frankly easier than the education problem. All you got to do to solve the crime problem is put more cops on the street and let them do their job. That's all you got to do.
Well, he was offered that. He was on MSNBC, and Joe Scarborough, who is no fan of Trump, said, would you take 5,000 more police officers on the street? Senator, he wouldn't answer it. He kept on talking about educating people and getting, some sort of help from a social worker. And he said, no, but would you take the 5,000? Well, it's not a police problem, but would you take them? He wouldn't say yes. So back to my original question, does he think he's just going to skip and put his hands over his eyes and put his hands over his ears and squeeze his nose and still get elected? Because at some point, you're going to have to hit critical mass. Like Rudy Giuliani in New York was elected as a Republican. They all held their noses and voted for him because they were sick and tired of living like that. They voted in George Pataki as the governor of New York because they were sick and tired of living like that. Of course, those two guys fixed it, and then they elected a bunch of Democrats after that for some dumb reason. But is Chicago hitting critical mass? How about Portland? Are these cities going to wake up and say we can't keep electing the same people?
We haven't hit critical mass yet in Chicago. Part of that, not all, but part of that is because the people who have the wherewithal economically have left. I can't tell you the number of people who pay a lot in taxes who just left Illinois. They've left Chicago. The mayor is propped up in Chicago by the teachers' unions. They elected him. They're a very powerful force there. And they funded a lot of his campaign. I wish I had a better answer, Joe, but I don't. But sooner or later, I know this. I'm an optimist. I'm an optimist who worries, but I'm an optimist. Sooner or later, the good people of Chicago, I don't know when, but they're going to get fed up. And they're going to say, we've had enough. And we don't have to live in fear. We don't have to have schools where violence is common and learning is rare. But they're not there yet.
I hope they're getting there. I think the illegal immigration problem actually has helped to get them a lot closer. It is Senator John Kennedy. Go and get his book. It's called How to Test Negative for Stupid. It's out there now, right, Senator?
Yeah, it's #1 on Amazon. I'm real proud of that.
Well, how could it not be? So go and get it right now. Just try How to Test Negative for Stupid. One last question, and I'm going to go off the beaten path a second. The FBI, I like Kash Patel. He's a friend of mine. I like Dan Bongino, friend of mine. I think they're doing a good job. I think Pam Bondi's doing a good job. I think she fumbled the Epstein announcement early on, but I think people got past that. Are they doing it quickly enough? And the reason I ask is that I hear every single day on socials, on my radio show, on the podcast, Joe, when am I going to see some people in handcuffs? So, Senator, are we going to see some people in handcuffs? I know that Comey's facing indictment. I get it. But we're ready to see the lawfare, those who brought the lawfare upon the American people, we're ready to see them in handcuffs and face the music.
I understand that. I think they're going, this is what I honestly believe. I think they're going as fast as they can. I think they're trying to do it right. It's been 9 months since they took office, along with the president. I think they want to be deliberate. I don't think they want to make a mistake. They want to be fair. Everybody's entitled to due process. But I do think they'll get it done. And I don't know this for a fact, but I wouldn't be surprised. I could be wrong, but I know they're taking a very close look at Mr. John Bolton.
Yeah.
And they're taking a close look at Mr. Jack Smith, who got the phone records of 8 United States senators, which I just can't believe the telephone companies gave them to him. But I understand how difficult it is. You can't just go do something and look for the evidence later. You've got to make sure you're right. And I know it's frustrating, but I just know what all is involved in getting it done.
I said last question, I mean it this time, because we're still sitting in a government shutdown. It's Senator John Kennedy. How does this thing end? Does Chuck Schumer come out and do what you said and say, okay, listen, I hate it, but we're going to open the government for the good of the people, and we're going to go and negotiate now? Because now we're starting to see all the crap they tried to add back in with their alternative CR about, adding queer ideology in Serbia and stuff. I mean, all that stuff's back in there, and the American people didn't know that. Is he going to have to fall on his sword and say, okay, let's end it now? And will it happen soon?
Well, here's what I think Senator Schumer will do. I think he will go to 6 or 8 of his Democratic Senate colleagues and say, look, do me a favor. I need you to vote to come out of the shutdown. I think Senator Schumer will say to them, now, I'm going to have to criticize you, and I'm going to vote no.
Wow.
So because I've got to look tough, but I've got myself in a corner, and I don't know how to get out, and I want you to bail me out. And I think that's how we'll come out of the shutdown.
Is it going to be soon?
I think it will be at least 2 weeks.
Wow.
And if I'm wrong about that analysis, I don't know how we're going to get out of it, because I don't see the Republicans backing down. The Democrats are just asking. They've made very unserious offers. This could end up being the longest shutdown in the history of ever. And a lot of Americans don't think that's a bad thing.
A lot of Americans don't think that as well as the president paying the military. We certainly don't think that then because we're finding some money. At the end of the day, I think you're right about Chuck Schumer, though. He's going to have to do that. If he wants a political future and if he wants to take on the leader of the party, the de facto leader AOC in that Senate race, he's going to have to show some leadership. But it's interesting that you said he'll still vote against it and quietly, protest those who are voting for it, but he'll say we'll just have to get it done.
I was just going to say, Joe, I think Senator Schumer's mismanaged it. I think he's misjudged it. I think he really needs to sit down and try harder not to suck, because he's got himself in a corner, and I don't think he knows how to get out.
Oh, he's doing a good job of sucking then, is what you're saying. Go get the book, How to Test Negative for Stupid. I can't thank you enough for coming on today, Senator. My show is your show anytime.
You're a total baller. You're a rock star. Thank you, Joe. I love your show.
Love having this guy on because he's going to tell you the truth about what's going on in Washington, D.C. It's Representative Mark Harris, District 8 Republican, great state of North Carolina, also the Republican Study Committee and Judiciary Committees. Mark, it's good to see you again. How you doing?
Joe, I'm doing great, man. It's good to see you, my friend.
It's an absolute pleasure. Can you guys go back to work, please? I mean, what is going on? 15 days now, and the Schumer shutdown continues. Mark, you've got people in the House, I don't know, people like Jasmine Crockett and Hakeem Jeffries and others that are claiming that somehow the Republicans shut the government down, when literally, if you look at the 60 vote majority you need, the supermajority in the Senate, Republicans cannot do anything today to open the government, can they?
That's exactly right. We did what we were supposed to do, go all the way back to September 19th when we passed a clean CR. I mean, it was just it's so simple, Joe. And I really believe the American people are getting it, that they're understanding it. But I mean, we passed that clean CR that just had a date out there, November 21st, to give us an extension of those 7 weeks to move more and more appropriation bills that we needed to move. We'd moved 3 in the House and they'd moved 3 in the Senate, and we wanted to get some more across the finish line. And so in the process of simply doing that, which again was so clean, I mean, there was nothing there except that date that was saying we want to go forward with it. And instead, Chuck Schumer decided that this was going to be a perfect time for his gamesmanship and to pull the stunt that he's pulled. And now the American people are being held hostage.
Here's something that blows my mind. You said a date of September 19th. It's been almost a month since you guys said yes?
Absolutely. It was on a Friday. I remember it.
So you pass it a month ago. Hakeem Jeffries is out there acting like he's got some leverage to say, let's vote on a bill for military. Let's vote on a bill for health care, when he has no leverage at all. He already voted against military pay. He already voted against continuing the government spending the way that it was for 6 more weeks. He's done. Now, Chuck Schumer is another story completely, because this guy, and I think you probably would agree to this, is afraid he's going to lose to AOC next year in the Senate race. So he's got to act like he's tough right now. Is that what you see too?
That's exactly right. He's trying to play to his left flank. They've got some kind of big rally coming up across the country. No Kings rally. It's really more of a Marxist rally, it appears, coming up this Saturday. And I think he just feels like he needs to be the big man on campus that is somehow fighting President Trump, which is absolutely ridiculous when you stop and think about it, that here we are as a country, and we're seeing things happen around the world, and we see President Trump demonstrating his leadership around the world and his leadership here at home, and all they can think to do is anything to try to slow down the momentum, anything to try to stop what President Trump is doing, and to your point, anything that Chuck Schumer can do to somehow build up his own reputation to benefit the people on the left, to try to benefit his political career.
District 8 Republican, great state of North Carolina. It's Mark Harris. Go and follow him right now. Harris.house.gov. Go follow him on social media too. I want to spell out how the subsidies from the federal government and federal taxpayers, literally those subsidies go to illegal alien health care. I'm going to say it quickly because I think I finally figured it out. If I get anything wrong, let me know. What they're doing in blue states is they're taxing healthcare providers. They're taking that tax money, and then they're taking federal money, and they're replacing the taxation they just put on the healthcare providers. They take the healthcare provider taxes and give healthcare to illegal aliens. So they're doing it They're taking it from Peter to pay Paul. Now they can claim that they're not taking federal money to pay for illegal health care, but they literally are. They're taking the tax money and then replacing the tax money with federal money. It's like what the abortion provider Planned Parenthood does. We're not using any of that money for abortions. Well, it's all fungible. Of course you are. You're taking that money, you're using it for something else, and then you pay for abortions as well. Mark, did I spell it out right? That's how they're paying for illegal health care, aren't they?
I think you spelled it out perfectly, Joe. And I'll tell you, folks, if they want to go visit the speaker's website, he has laid it out chapter and verse, and did that early in this process. He had a press conference and laid it out clearly where they are calling for the funding of illegal aliens' health care. And he just lays it all out. So you said it perfectly. You ran the scam exactly how they tend to operate it.
Yeah, and they're claiming, well, that money directly doesn't go to illegal healthcare. Of course it does. Well, otherwise you wouldn't be repaying you're refunding the same tax money that you're using to pay for healthcare. So let's get into some of the other crap that just showed up. I got this from your office. I got to tell you something, Mark. I had no idea they added all this stuff. I knew that they were adding back healthcare that was stripped out in the one big beautiful bill. We got to go down the list of some of this stuff. Can you just go through some of it? Climate resilience in Honduras. How much is that? I actually have it. No, you gave it to me. I'm going to go ahead and say it. $24.6 million of my money going to pay for climate resilience in Honduras. Mark, can you tell me what climate resilience even is?
Great question. I mean, look, $4 million for LGBTQIA plus democracy grants in the Balkans.
Wow.
I can tell you about $2 million for feminist democratic principles in Africa. I can tell you about $4 million for global LGBTQI plus awareness campaigns. All of these, and the one you mentioned, are just, again, examples of what they are trying to call for. And it's reckless spending that is disastrous. And again, they're not just calling for it, they're demanding it in order to open the government back up.
It is U.S. Representative Mark Harris, great state of North Carolina. I mean, $13.4 million to civic engagement in Zimbabwe. Again, they're trying to sell it to the American people that people like you and people like Mike Johnson and people like John Thune and the president and vice president and me, that we just don't want health care for people in America. That's not true. When it comes to the ACA, the so-called Affordable Care Act, it's unaffordable, Obamacare, that doesn't expire until December 31st. Why are they arguing about it now instead of doing a CR so that they can argue about it?
That's a great question. In fact, that's the question that the speaker has continued to point out again and again. This CR that we passed out of the House, placed before the Senate, that just simply puts the date out and gives us that was going to give us 7 weeks to November 21st, was simply going to allow us to keep the government going while we had the conversations, while we move the appropriation bills. Your point's exactly well taken. It's not even till December 31st that these subsidies expire, which again are subsidies expiring that the Democrats put in motion to expire 5 years ago. So the bottom line is, we're in a position right now where we're saying open the government. If you want to have conversations about legislation, if you want to have conversations about all those things, we need to have a government open so we can get back to work and do the things that the American people sent us here to do.
Mark, they thought they had a winning combination with the healthcare stuff. They don't, because we're able to debunk that. Why do you think they tried to add all this other garbage in that list that you and I just went through?
Because all they're trying to do, in short, Joe, is we did for the first time in the history of this country, and the one big beautiful bill, the working families tax cut, whatever you want to call it, at the end of the day, we were able to cut $1.6 trillion in mandatory spending. Therefore, what they have come back demanding is that we spend $1.5 trillion in this kind of hostage-taking ransom note in order to allow the government to reopen. That's the kind of junk they're doing, and that's what cannot be tolerated.
When I saw Hakeem Jeffries yesterday or the day before say something to the effect of, the American people know we're right and the Republicans are wrong. Now, this is an 80-20 issue, I believe. I think the American people are on the Republican side. Is there some poll, Mark, that I missed that Hakeem Jeffries is referring to?
No, listen, they're throwing out all kind of polls. And Joe, you and I both been around long enough to know that polls can show whatever the person presenting them wants to manipulate them to show. The sign that I'm seeing probably more than anything is when you read mainstream media and happen to read their closing line, they tend to say the polls are showing that there's fair share of blame to go around. That tells me the reality is that we're winning this argument, and the American people are placing the blame on Democrats and Chuck Schumer when you get down to it. I can only speak for what I'm seeing in my district. When I'm out among our folks, when we're attending events, they keep telling me, Mark, make sure you hold the line, make sure that you all stay strong, because we cannot allow them to do this to us.
District 8 Republican, great state of North Carolina. It is Mark Harris, U.S. Representative, also on a couple of very important committees that I want to get into in a little while. I want to finish with this. Is there a mind virus, do you think, on the Democrat side? Not being funny. When Hillary Clinton can say Donald Trump did a good job in getting peace in the Middle East, looks like this deal, Donald Trump deserves credit. When she can say it, yet at the same time, Antony Blinken, the former Secretary of State, tries to say Biden started this process, it makes me wonder if there's a legitimate ailment with these Democrats. I mean, Hillary Clinton's on Donald Trump's side on something, but Antony Blinken wants me to believe that AutoPen started this process. Help me understand this.
Listen, if I could get inside the minds of those on the left, I'd be a very wealthy man. Unfortunately, I've given up trying to figure out how they think and what they think. I'm not even sure they know what they think, because from day to day, it just seems to change. And I think they're looking for some kind of Hail Mary to somehow be relevant again, because President Trump has been winning and winning and winning, and anything they could do to try to slow down the momentum that this president has had. But I'll tell you this, the momentum is not slowing down. And if what the American people sent us here to do government differently is exactly what is being done. When we've got the Office of Management and Budget and Russ Vought, who is beginning to look at those areas where we can shrink the size of government, if that's what we're going to be doing during this shutdown, so be it. But the Democrats are making a very, very poor calculation, I believe, and I think we'll see the results.
I just wonder why Democrat senators or representatives or any politician, to be honest, wouldn't say, yeah, he got to win on that one. We can't stand him otherwise. But man, he got to win in the Middle East. We can't stand him otherwise. But that was smart to cut back funding for this stupid thing. Or we don't like him otherwise, but cutting down crime in D.C. is really a good thing. Are they not smart enough to understand that the American people like a lot of what he's doing, and it would be wise of them to get on the bandwagon for stuff like lower crime and peace in the Middle East?
Obviously not. Obviously, they don't seem to, they're tone deaf. That's the way I've described it. They really seem to be tone deaf to where the American people are, and haven't gotten the message. And look, even in places like Memphis, where you have a Democrat mayor who is working with the National Guard that has come in there, and they're seeing improvements. You looked at Washington, D.C., a mayor that certainly wasn't thrilled about them coming in, but they came in and she began to work with them, and they began to see incredible results. I'm just telling you, they're tone deaf, and yet when they see the results, they find that, hey, this is what the American people are looking for.
It is U.S. Representative Mark Harris, District 8 Republican, great state of North Carolina, harris.house.gov. Follow him everywhere as well. Let's talk about Jack Smith. So I'm not sure I understand. This guy went and got warrants to surveil the cell phones of 8 senators, and there were several others that he was just listening in on or seeing all their phone records. And I guess these phone companies just capitulated and say, sure, here's all the information. Can you give my audience and me a little insight into what it was that he did? It just sounds like it's illegal to me, but maybe I missed something.
Well, it is illegal, we believe, in what he did, and we are looking at that in particular. I know Jim Jordan, chairman of Judiciary Committee, is looking forward to figuring out how we go forward in bringing Jack Smith before the committee at a hearing. I think it's going to be important that some questions get answered, and I think that we have plenty of questions to ask, because I don't think it was just limited to just those 8 senators and another congressman or 2. I think that when we start getting into it, you may find that there were a much broader stroke that was hit than that.
And he was brought in by Merrick Garland. Merrick Garland acts like he never talked to Biden about anything. And he might not have, because AutoPen was signing stuff. But who do you think was running the government? Was it Blinken? Was it by committee? Was it Sullivan? Was Barack Obama pulling the strings? It wasn't Joe Biden. Who do you think it was?
Well, I think all of the above could probably be
Yeah.
mentioned in there, but I do think that there's no question that the involvement of the former president by Barack Obama in there had to be a major influence. Of course, he had stacked a lot of the administration with the Obama holdovers
Right.
and brought them back. But I think there's no question that Barack Obama had a great deal to do with that administration.
The first time President Trump was in, he wanted to drain the swamp. It was much harder than he thought. I've talked to him about it. He didn't realize how deep the tentacles went. So getting rid of those who were leaking information all the time and working against him and bringing lawfare and, two different impeachments and the whole dossier garbage that was just a made up foolish thing. That stuff happened because he wasn't able to walk in and say, I fire 5,000 people on the dime. He seems to be getting it right or better this time. Do you feel good about what's going on in the DOJ? Do you trust the FBI more? Do you trust the CIA more? There are a lot of bad actors that were in those ABC or Alphabet agencies. Do you feel better about how he's doing it this time?
I really do feel better about it, Joe. I know that we had the opportunity to have Kash Patel, FBI director, in front of us in the Judiciary Committee for a hearing. It was very clear to me that Kash has got a good grip on what is happening there. I know even earlier today there was press conferences there in the Oval Office that talked about the things that were happening with crime. I think, in fact, we were supposed to have this week Attorney General Bondi in front of our committee prior to this government shutdown. So I think that's going to be rescheduled, and she'll be coming before us as well. But to your point, there were a lot of bad actors. There were a lot of activities that went on that ran deep. I mean, obviously, we've got Jim Comey now indicted.
Right.
It's going to be standing trial. I think that that clean out continues and will continue. But I do think we're on the right track, and I am confident with the leadership that President Trump has put in place.
Last question for you, if you don't mind, Representative, and I always appreciate the time. District 8 Republican, great state of North Carolina. It's Mark Harris. I had Jamie Comer on yesterday, the House Oversight Committee chair, and I didn't realize something that he said, and I wonder if there's more that you can add to this. He said that we were going to get a report on AutoPen, on how deep that went, on who was really controlling it, on what was going on, and they were going to release the report, but with the government shutdown, you guys literally can't release anything. You can't really do much of anything because of the shutdown. Are there other things once the shutdown ends that the American people might find out about that would blow our minds? He said we're going to be really disappointed we're going to be disappointed in what would happen for 4 years with AutoPen when we get that report. Are there other things that you guys are ready to release on Judiciary or any other committee that we're going to be surprised about when we reopen?
Well, I can't obviously speak for Oversight Committee, which is what Congressman Comer was talking about.
Yeah.
And I think he's exactly right. We are going to see some things that come out. All I know is we've got some hearings that are scheduled. You're going to be hearing again from the Attorney General as she comes to the House. She was in the Senate just last week before, I think, and had a very interesting hearing there, to say the least. So we're looking forward to having her in front of us. And then, of course, you've got this situation going on with the special prosecutor. And
Right.
I think you're going to, that information is going to be exciting when we start getting down to having that testimony brought before us as well. So the announcement of those, once we get things open back up and moving again, I think will be interesting to all your listeners to be a part of.
Any silver lining to opening it back up soon?
The most important silver lining to getting government open again is so we can get back to work and we can do the work of the American people. And that's what we want to see happen. Obviously, if they're going to be content to keep it closed, then we're going to be content to see the things that take place and shrinking the size of government and letting OMB continue to do the task that they do. But we want to see it open back up because we have the America First agenda that we've got to keep moving forward. We have so much momentum. And again, we're not going to be stymied by this, but we want to be able to keep getting these wins for the American people.
District 8, the great state of North Carolina. Thanks a lot, Mark, for coming on today. I appreciate the job you do for North Carolina and for the country. Let's do it again soon, okay?
We'll do it. Thank you, Joe. It's a pleasure.
I appreciate you.